Captain Marvel such an interesting and strange character to me? At least the MCU version is that Carol Danvers version, because it was really pitched to us in a really cool way. The initial pitch that we were given by Kevin Feige and the other different people surrounding Marvel was that she was going to be a major character. This was going to be one of the new faces of the MCU going into Phase 4, 5, and onwards. This character, of course, was incredibly powerful. They said that she could destroy a planet or move a planet. That was incredibly cool to hear. And then they told us that this character was basically going to have a massive role in Endgame and in Infinity War, and that if you didn't watch the movie, you were going to be missing out on some key details of Endgame itself. And of course, that made the movie make $1 billion, which, everyone wanted to know this. Everyone wanted to know what was so good about Captain Marvel. They of course over-exaggerated her overall role within the movie, her role within the universe. But at the same time, I think they did want her to become something big. They just didn't properly set up the foundation for her to do that. She didn't interact with the Avengers in any real meaningful way. She didn't attack and defeat Thanos in any real meaningful way. She had no major plot relevance in the Endgame movie itself. She had a couple of important elements as far as she did a couple of important things. For example, she took down Thanos' big ship. She also brought Tony back to Earth, but nothing that could have been accomplished by other characters like Thor and so on and so forth. So when you really look at it, she didn't really do a whole lot in that movie. She didn't interact with any of the Avengers in any real meaningful way. Most people can't think of any scenes when it comes to that character in the first place. And again, this was a character that was supposed to be one of the biggest characters in Phase 4 and onwards. Supposed to be one of the new faces of the MCU. And ultimately speaking, she flopped as a character. They didn't give her much to work with. To be fair, this might be related to the fact that the actress Brie Larson completely made a bunch of terrible, utterly awful statements that really made the fans really hate her. So she was very unlikable as an actress, very unlikable in the interviews. And because of all that, I think that might have influenced Marvel's decision to kind of cut her role back. But you still invested so much into this character as far as a lot of narrative potential that you really made out. This is supposed to be the most strongest character within the entire universe. This character is supposed to be that person. Even within the actual universe itself, she's supposed to be a savior of multiple different galaxies, or at least multiple different solar systems in the galaxy. She's supposed to be a galactic hero in a lot of ways. So for her not to be used really well it's a major problem. It's a terrible thing that they did that. But again, part of that might be the Brie Larson problem. So, of course, I wanted to know, I asked different people around me, friends, family, what would you do with the character now? Because the character has been destroyed, as far as the character never really had a character to begin with. Unlike with someone like Sam Wilson, he had a character to begin with. People liked him to start out with. He hit, the ground running, and then, of course, they destroyed him with, successive movies after Phase 4 and so on and so forth. But when you compare that to Captain Marvel, she never really had anything. She's a complete blank character. No, actual character trait besides being, just a stuck-up person. Besides that, just not and being very arrogant. Nothing that really endears you to the character. And the actress, of course, also seems to embody those values, making it even harder to like the character based off the actress if you know anything about her itself. I mean, there's so many different problems with the character, but at the same time, there's so many different good parts. The character is incredibly powerful. She has really great, solid powers that can be useful inside of fight scenes, useful as far as a character itself. Just that the actual character, she has no relationship, she has no arc, she has no major things that make people want to actually know about the character in the first place. And so again, I asked my friends and family, I asked different people around me, I said, what would you do with the character now? You are the person in charge. What do you do with that character? I think it's a really interesting question. I think a lot of people, their answers were very interesting. They had 2-3 main answers, of course. There's also the one answer that I kind of took away from them. I wouldn't allow them to say that one, which is the answer of just ignore her, pretend like she doesn't exist, and just keep going on. Because again, you invested so much into this character, I don't think it's a good idea to simply ignore the character even existed in the first place. The character exists, it exists within the universe. To simply ignore the character existing in any way, shape, or form, I feel like is disrespectful to the fans of the product. At the same time, some people would say that getting rid of the character is respectful to the fans, but That's just my opinion on it. I think that just ignoring the characters that let the character fade off into obscurity is kind of not the right path to go on. But then what do you do with the character? So one option that I was given was kill the character off in an unceremonious manner, like they did with Taskmaster. Taskmaster failed, just kill the character off unceremoniously, and basically say, yeah, we failed with this character. And that was an initial idea, and I talked about this with Sam Wilson, doing the same thing with him. And I said that I didn't want to do that with Sam Wilson. I said the same thing about Captain Marvel now here, because the character is supposed to be major. Just like Sam Wilson's supposed to be Captain America, and thus the death of Captain America would always be a big deal within the overall universe. You can't make the death happen without, and make it unceremonious, without inadvertently hurting the lore of the overall universe itself. So the same thing goes here. You can't just have this character, Captain Marvel, die and be unceremonious and quick like it was with Taskmaster without it having a major effect on the universe, logically speaking. So I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to just kill the character off completely, at least not in that unceremonious manner. If you're going to kill off a character, you got to kill them off in a character for power level, a character for importance within the overall lore of the universe, not within the actual mind of the viewer, but within the lore of the universe. She has a lot of value, and you can't just kill them off unceremoniously. So ceremoniously, how would you do that? There's only three options, of course. There's the beginning of the movie death, which is, what happened to Loki in Infinity War, what happens to those type of characters, just to kind of tell everyone that the new villain is super powerful. You would kill off Captain Marvel, kind of like Hulk got beat up. He didn't die, but he got completely destroyed by Thanos in order to make sure we all understood that Thanos is really powerful. And the same thing would be for Captain Marvel. She would be beat up and killed in that fight, just to let us know that how powerful the new villain is, which is not a terrible idea. I don't necessarily love it, but it's not an awful idea at all. The other option, of course, is mid-movie death. To let us all know that that this is really serious. This is the type of moment where a character dies middle of the movie. That whole moment where everyone, all hope is lost. That moment right before the swell, right before the finale, and the regathering and regrouping part. And this would be like, again, to continue with Marvel, references. This would be the Tony getting stabbed by Thanos. Even though Thanos didn't kill him in that scene, him getting stabbed by Thanos was all hope is lost. Oh my gosh, is Iron Man going to die? Going back to Avengers, the original first Avengers movie, you have, of course, Coulson getting stabbed to the chest and dying from Loki. Of course, I know Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. different things there, but that's the role in that movie was Coulson dying was to show that everyone's at the lowest point. And I can imagine Captain Marvel dying in that sort of way, which still show how powerful the villain is, while simultaneously, having an emotional hit. But I feel like that only works if people actually like the character who died. And I guess, again, you have half the movie to make her likable, but still, I can see that working. And then, of course, there's the third option, which is kill her off at the very end of the movie. The final character death, the Quicksilver death from Age of Ultron, the death of Iron Man from Endgame itself. That's the way you would do it. You'd have that be the finality situation, noble sacrifice, so on and so forth, the cost of battle, the cost of war. And that's not an awful idea either. Out of the three ceremonious death ideas, I like the middle one the best. The idea of the lowest point death, I feel like that makes the most sense. You have a half movie basically to build her up and make her actually kind of likable, and then kill her off. If we have to kill her off ceremoniously, that would be the role I would go with. But again, these are just out of the options that are there as far as killing her off and giving her a ceremonial type death. I think that if you are to, in my opinion, I think that with the character that massive, that character that's supposed to be that important within the MCU universe, I don't think you should just kill the character off. I think you should try to fix them. And unlike other characters, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to try to fix Captain Marvel. The problem with fixing Captain Marvel is twofold, because when you're trying to fix that character, unlike Sam Wilson, the guy I just mentioned before, he was well-liked beforehand. He was well-liked from Winter Soldier, well-liked in Age of Ultron, well-liked in those other movies that made sure that when he got destroyed, there's still a way back to bring him back. People still have a love in their heart for him deep down, and you guys just have to reawaken that love in their heart. Versus when you look at a character like Captain Marvel, people never really cared about her. Even in the comics, she didn't really have a whole lot of things. She was a side character, a C-list character in the comics, never had really any real villains, never really had any real people to fight in the first place. I mean, she had a villain, Mystique, and Rogue was kind of rivalry they had for a bit. But of course, both of those characters, it's hard to do those with that now. Mystique is now pretty firmly an X-Men villain. So yeah, she doesn't really have a lot of villains. She doesn't have a lot of side characters that are really good, that aren't super, weird and whatnot. She doesn't have a whole lot of anything when you really look at it. And because of that, she never had a real fan base within the comics. She was kind of sort of liked as far as she was a team player on the Avengers, a C-list character on the Avengers, one of the team players there, but she wasn't ever a superstar. And within the MCU, she is even worse. She's hated by a lot of people. They don't like the way she basically was acted without the entire movie that she was in, and inside of Endgame itself. I remember one of my sisters talked about this, but she didn't even like the idea that Captain Marvel's the one who came down and destroyed the entire Thanos ship. She said that that's a moment that should have been given to one of our characters that we actually cared about. So there you go. There's a lot of people just don't like the character for whatever reason. There's a lot of different reasons for it. And ultimately speaking, you're in a hole when you're kind of trying to fix this character. You're already deep in the hole trying to bring back people to the character. Not even bring him back, honestly, trying to rediscover it. So when you really look at the character, you have all these problems. But at the same time, you also have solutions to them, because since there is no actual character to work with, you can kind of have a blank slate to do whatever you want to try to bring this up and bring this to a better space. And I think you can do that with Captain Marvel. I think one of the things you're going to have to do also is, unfortunately, it's not just that people don't like the actual character itself. People also don't like the actress, which I think they have a solution for that, which I'll talk about later on in the video. But for now, just focusing on our character, how do we actually fix that? I think you fix it in several ways. I think that you just give her, well, to be quite clear, more character. She's a blank slate right now. She has no real emotions, no real connections. Yes, she had a brief, movie with, the Marvels, which utterly failed and flopped. I don't think it's a good idea to necessarily go too much stuff from that. They tried their best to try to give her something. And by trying their best, I don't mean they did a good job. I mean that, Marvel's best is pretty terrible right now. So honestly, they didn't do a really good job of making her likable there. What you have to do to make her likable, I feel like, and to get the female audience back in there, to get the male audience getting there as well, is you have to try to make the character, again, likable. Make her nicer, make her more charming, make her better in every single way. And the way you do that, and make her actually a hero. I talked about this in my other videos. Marvel doesn't have any heroes. Talked about Paragons of Virtue and all those different things when it comes to Superman. You have to, I think, do that with her. You have to have her, and this is what I would do if I was making a movie about her, would make her rediscover what it means to be a Paragon of Virtue, rediscover what she wants to do with her powers, rediscover a mission that she wants to fulfill. The idea of her deciding, because right now, at the end of Marvels, and I know a lot of you didn't watch that movie, but at the end of Marvels, she's earthbound. She went away from space, she's now earthbound again. And with a character like that, I think what you have to do is make her actually try to save people, try to be a hero for a bit of time. Let her actually try to be a Paragon of Virtue. Let her that be something she strives towards for a bit of time. Maybe she can be inspired by someone. Maybe she can be inspired by Thor. Maybe not Thor. Let's be honest, Thor sucks right now. But she can be inspired by maybe Iron Man's sacrifice. She can be inspired by someone else to basically try to be a hero in every way, shape, or form that she possibly can. And to make that truly part of her ideology, say that I have all this power. With all this power, I can use this power to try to save as many people as I can. Let her be dedicated to that. Let that be something that really drives her forward. Maybe she can have, there's not a death, but there's a thing at the end of the Marvels movie where Monica Rambeau, one of her few people that she knows and cares about, does get teleported away, disappears. Looks like she died, honestly. Regardless, the idea is that maybe she can say that because of that sacrifice, because of that idea, it really made her want to, again, try to save everyone she can. She sees almost everyone as Monica Rambeau, and she wants to save, every single person. Just since she couldn't save, Monica Rambeau. That I think would be not a bad idea. I think that would be do a lot to endear herself to the audience. So I would do that. It's one of the main things I would try to bring back that idea. And that's important because when you really think about Captain Marvel, whether it be her comic book counterpart or many of her animated versions of the character, what you often see is that she is directionless. She has no ultimate goal that she's working towards. So giving her an internal drive to do something, I think would go a long way to making her a much more well-rounded character. That's only one part of what she could be doing. There are many other pieces that you have to put together to make her an A-list character, or at least give her the chance of being an A-list type character, to be someone who's able to hold their own against characters like Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, so on and so forth. And the other things you can do is try to make her, actually have relationships with people around her. And this includes bad relationships and good relationships. So you're talking about making sure she has friends, making sure she has teammates, making sure that she has people that she cares about, make sure she maybe even has romantic relationships within her overall story, while simultaneously giving her the negative of that, giving her villains, giving her antagonists, giving her obstacles, human obstacles in the way of her goals in every single way, shape, and form. Whether it be people who want to do something evil unless she has to stop them, whether people want to get revenge against her, who just want, or against her very idea, against the very idea of who she is. I think those are all great examples of villains you can kind of make long term. Starting first with the idea of, fixing the relationships around her, giving her, friends and romantic interests and so on and so forth. The best place to do this is simply throw her onto a team. You see, most of these other characters began as part of a team, of a team dynamic, essentially. And because of that, they already had a squad to kind of go with, and a squad of friends and family that they really, really cared about. You see this with Thor, the Warriors 3. You see this with Iron Man, with Pepper Potts and Happy Hogan and so on and so forth, War Machine. They already had characters already around them when the story first began. When in Captain Marvel, what they decided to do instead is give her only 2 characters around her, Monica Rambeau and her mother. And one of those characters, of course, dies immediately. Not immediately, but dies as far as immediately when it comes to the overall story long term. They gave her Captain Marvel, who again died pretty much in her backstory. They gender swapped that character. And then finally, they gave her the Kree Empire soldiers, who all were going to in the end betray her, essentially. And so ultimately speaking, what you did is that you gave her no real actual characters to deal with, no real actual relationships to actually enhance in her character in any way, shape, or form. You made her a loner. And that wasn't, I think, a good idea overall for a character who already didn't have an internal locus to go with. For her now, what we're going to do is we're going to put her on the Avengers. Put her on the Avengers, let her be part of Captain America's, by that I mean Sam Wilson's Captain America's team, let her actually be part of that situation. And now she's part of that team, and now she's able to actually, deal with the different members of that team. She can form relationships with them. I mean, Sam Wilson and her should get along. They're both guys who have a lot of things in common. They're both, Air Force, Army people. I think there's a lot of things they can have in common. They can form a deeper friendship. She should be the first person that Sam actually calls, making sure that she's basically the number, one man, his number one man, his right-hand man is what I'm looking for. So that's she should be to him. His co-leader in that way. Not necessarily co-leader, but again, his vice president to his president. I think that's a good idea to use her in that role and let her and him actually have a good relationship. You could do, of course, a romantic relationship with those two. I wouldn't support it maybe personally. I wouldn't want that to happen, but still, it's not a bad idea. You also have War Machine. War Machine should be added onto Sam's team. This is kind of coming out of Sam Wilson's Avengers movie, but I won't get into the full team. I'll save that for another video. But overall, you would want, War Machine's another character that, again, both Army guys, they should have a bit of rapport with each other. They should be able to get some type of relationship with each other, whether it be a soldierly, brotherly bond. I think that's a cool idea to add that in. So yeah, that's already one relationship you can do. And then finally, I do think a romantic relationship, I have to choose a romantic relationship for her. Of course, I just mentioned War Machine as an option, but I don't support either War Machine or Sam Wilson as an option. My personal pitch for a relationship for her would be a character from the Eternals. It would be Icarus, the main character of the Eternals. And the reason why is because both Sam Wilson and War Machine are ultimately speaking humans with powers and abilities that they have. They're still ultimately humans. And they're humans with technology that enhances them. Without the technology, they're essentially just normal human beings. I think that's a kind of a weird dynamic for her to be with them, in my personal opinion. I would prefer Icarus, someone who has godlike powers like she has, and they can kind of bond over their shared ability. Both both of them have incredible power, and they both have to find a way to use that power, and that can be a struggle that they can work through together. I think that would be a really cool, a really big kind of power couple idea from those two characters. Nick Reese is a character who already showed within the What If series that he's powerful enough to still make Captain Marvel for many, days on end, for months on end, in fact, actually. So I don't think it's a bad idea to put him up with her. Of course, people say that, he died at the end of Eternals, but ultimately speaking, he flew into the sun as penance for his crimes, penance for his sins. But at the same time, he could just survive that, let's be honest. They didn't really show that he died. If he's fighting Captain Marvel who can reignite the sun, he should be able to survive the sun. It's not a big deal. Make him that he survived. He attempted to, let's say, YouTube friendly, delete himself. But instead of doing that, in fact, he, of course, failed at that because the sun, he was powerful enough to kill him. And thus, he is now trying to search for another way, something to do to atone for his sins. I think that would be a great character to have a relationship with Captain Marvel. I think it's a great character for those two to actually bond together and can do a lot of things to deepen her character, as well as giving her an actual, maybe healthy romantic relationship. I think it's not a bad idea whatsoever. That's how I would deal with the romantic relationships. That's what I would do with the friendships, not romantic, but the friendships that she could have. I would do it like that. When it comes to the opposite side, when it comes to the idea of her having these, different villain relationships that she can have, you can obviously make human relationships that she ends up running into. And by that, I mean like just random Avengers threats that she runs into that end up having, personal beef with her. It's not a bad idea in and of itself. Of course, the obvious way to do it, just use the Kree Empire. You use what you call a villain farm. I mentioned this before, but I'll explain it really quickly. And a villain farm is basically a group of people that kind of explains how they got their power, and you can just have villains pop up from that place. It's basically exactly what it's called, a villain farm, a farm for villains. So Hydra is a good example for Captain America Hydra. You just have someone pop up, say they're a Hydra agent. You already automatically kind of understand that they have they're diametrically opposed to Captain America and what he does, and thus, boom, you have a villain from there. You can just continuously farm villains from there. Thor has the Ice Giants and the Trolls. Iron Man has people like AIM and so on and so forth. It's not a bad idea. So what we would do with this is that for her, she has two built in within the MCU overall. She has, the Kree, the Skrulls. Those are both guys who can kind of build in. You also have random space people that she could have made angry. She's been in space for the last 30 years, saving people. Obviously, probably made some enemies in that time. You can obviously bring someone in from there. I would have someone that, of course, really hates Captain Marvel. There's a character I think I put in the video in the background at one point. One of her fellow soldiers, someone she worked with in the first movie, this female character who I think is a good character to use as someone who comes back for revenge later on. You destroyed the Korean Empire. She wants revenge. Obviously, any of her old teammates, I think, are not bad ideas to bring them back. Get them some more power in their hands, and now they come to try to get revenge on her, maybe even destroy all of Earth, or just destroy reputation on Earth. Whatever they can do to try to really ruin her, I think that's not a bad idea to give that something that she can deal with, So for our own personal movie, you would put a character like that in there, make that character actually a little bit more compelling, make their anger and their rage more clear, give them an actor that, you can use the actor they already have, but preferably you would make sure that you give the actor enough material to make this villain actually kind of compelling. And I don't think that's necessarily a hard thing to do whatsoever. So there you go. You have all that. You have villains now. You have her relationships already set back up. You have even romantic relationships set back up. And finally, I think the last thing I would do is I would change up her suit. I would give her a new suit, one that's, would actually really support the way that she looks like now. I might even recast the character. That's the big thing. I might recast the character because Brie Larson brings a whole lot of baggage to the overall role. So I might just recast the character and instead bring in